My name is Horacio Lopez-Nicora. I'm the soybean pathologist and nematologist here at Ohio State. And today I want to give a mid-season update of soybean diseases or the soybean diseases that we may encounter as we continue walking our fields. So the typical and the most common ones that we may encounter in Ohio when we're starting to get into that reproductive stage of our soybeans is frog-eye leaf spot. Frog-eye leaf spot, as you can see, really require that warm and humid conditions. So weather conditions in Ohio have been very favorable for this disease to show up. The pathogen will overwinter, and if the previous winters were not that cold, it may survive and will serve as the first inoculum for this season. Again, when frog eye shows up between R3 and R5, that's where our yield is most compromised. That's when we really want to protect our soybean from this disease. We strongly recommend walk these fields and scout for this disease. You can see the symptoms as I'm showing here. They look like a spot, and that spot will have the growth or will present the growth of the pathogen. You can use a hand lens to see those. It looks like whiskers. Those are the conidia, the spores that are being produced on those lesions. Once you identify you have these, and if you are in that R3, R5 growth stage, that's when a fungicide will be warranted and will help in protecting yield. We strongly recommend not doing any applications if we don't see the presence of the disease. Another pathogen, Sclerotinia sclerotiorum, which causes white mold, is one that is very prevalent in Ohio, more specifically in the northeast part of Ohio. But any part of Ohio really can be affected by this disease, specifically when we have those high temperatures, rain, fog, a lot of dew, which are pretty much what we're seeing in this season. The pathogen will infect through flowering. So R1 and R2 are very critical to protect our soybean. So areas where you experience white mold every year, those are areas where we want to definitely take some control, some management, such as fungicide application when our soybeans are hitting that R1, R2. In other places where we may not see this disease very often, it will be a good idea to, again, scout our fields and walk our fields and later on see any development of this problem. Once we see it and the symptoms, as you can see there, the death of those plants and the sign, which is a production of that white mycelium, white fluffy mycelium, and then those very dark mouse-dropping look structures that are called sclerotia. These are the survival structure of these fungus. We can see those on plants that are dying, and you can see how severe it is. We can see a plant that was infected versus one that is not, how much of that pod is produced on the healthy one versus the one affected by wild mold that completely has no pods. So definitely it's a disease that will cause yield reduction. Protection is during flowering. However, walking our fields and identifying places where we see white mold will inform us for future management techniques. So very important, walk those fields, identify if you have white mold. We may have it again next year and we will be better prepared. Septoria, brown spot is one that we see it most of the time. Normally remains in the lower canopy, is a fungus that really thrives on those senescence leaves, the lower ones, but can migrate upwards on healthier tissue. A lot of severe Septoria brown spot can be observed in very susceptible cultivars. So very cultivar dependent. Fortunately, most of our cultivars have some resistance to Septoria. It's an organism that will survive on debris, and with splashing rain will move to healthy plants or healthy parts of the same plant. We have been conducting, in collaboration with the Laura Lindsay's program, a lot of trials where we evaluate fungicide. Our soybean pathology lab also conducts several fungicide trials during the season. In the past years, with low disease pressures, we really haven't seen much help of this product in terms of gaining yield and an ROI. We definitely see a reduction in severity, though this, like I mentioned, for the past 3 years, very low foliage disease severity. So the importance of really walking our fields, scouting our fields to see if we have the pathogen that we need to manage with these products. Fabiano and Ali, both students in our labs, have conducted many trials evaluating fungicides for frog eye and septoria, and under very low disease pressure years, they really have not seen a significant impact in using or spraying fields. Again, this highlights the need to scout our fields, walk our fields, see if we have the problem before making an application that will result in an investment for the grower. A nice tool that can help us with some of our scouting is one that Crop Protection Network offers. You can go to Crop Protection Network and it will land you on this website. You can see on the little tab up there that it says tools, that will display multiple tools that Crop Protection Network offer. One of them is crop disease forecasting. It's a really nice tool that is now available for everyone in the US to use. It feeds on models, predictive models for diseases that have been created, developed, and validated by research groups. And some of the data from Ohio had funneled into improving these models and continue to funnel into improving better these models. So when you hit that crop disease forecasting, it will take you to this page where there's a nice video of how to use this tool. I have a nice snap picture here of what it looked like. You can see in Ohio, I placed 3 different locations. I placed one in Clark County. That's where we have our research station, the Western Agricultural Research Station. I put another pin, I drop another pin, as you can see, in Northeast Ohio, in that borderline between Trumbull and Ashtabula County. And then I also placed another pin over there in the northwest part of the state in Fulton County. And that displays here, when it retrieves a lot of information about the weather from these places, what is the risk of seeing, in this case, frog eye leaf spot. So you can also see that we can choose different crops, corn, soybean, and other crops of interest. I selected soybean. And then the 2 models that currently we have and we're continuing to improve and validate are one for white mold and one for frog eye leaf spot. I choose the one for frog eye leaf spot, and it shows us, as you can see in that image of the graph, that 2 sites displays moderate risk based on the weather conditions to develop a frog eye leaf disease. And one of them, the one in Fulton County, you can see that is red and displays a high risk. A lot of humidity, warm weather condition, the conducive environmental conditions for this disease to develop is high. We have a high risk. So if the pathogen is there and the susceptible soybean is planted, we will see that disease. So these type of tools will really help us get out there and maybe scout more intensively our fields to make sure that if we find this disease in that R3 to R5, we can be sure of taking some actions to mitigate the problem, maybe by a fungicide application. Having said that, if we walk our fields and the fields are looking healthy and they're looking good, maybe we don't need to invest in that component of our operation. Finally, just I want to wrap up just, reminding people that August and September are really the month that we need to be looking out for different diseases. The one that shows up most often and is very prevalent throughout Ohio is sudden death syndrome. It starts with that intervenial chlorosis, yellowing, that then later kills those tissues, and we can have premature defoliation, as you can see here. But this type of symptomology is also produced by other pathogens. Brown stem rot will cause the same type of symptoms. We need to split our stem and look inside for that brown discoloration. That will tell us that we're dealing with brown stem rot. And then one emerging pathogen that we have been seeing surrounding Ohio is red crown rot. We have not, in the soybean pathology lab, reported red crown rot yet in Ohio. We have not received samples and retrieved the pathogen yet. We are in a lookout for this pathogen. We encourage you that if you see fields with SDS symptoms, that you think twice, maybe suspect that it may be this emerging pathogen that is already causing a lot of damage in Kentucky, in Indiana, Illinois, and can be already present in Ohio. I suggest and recommend you hitting that QR code and checking and learning more about how to identify this pathogen and information where to send these samples for us to help you identify and diagnose it. This other QR code will give you several tips of how to handle samples so it can arrive to a diagnostic lab in a very good condition, so then we can work in identifying it and helping diagnose the issue. And with that, again, going back to sudden death syndrome, very typical symptoms can be finding the actual blue fungus growing on that root, and you take that under the microscope and you can see those crescent moon, canoe-shaped conidia, and that confirms that it's actually SDS. A very common question that I receive is, well, can we find red crown rot and SDS at the same time in one plant? And the answer is absolutely yes. We can see this. Warmer soil conditions favored more red crown rot. Cooler soil conditions at planting favor more SDS. So let's keep also that in mind when we are looking at a problem in our field. And then lastly, I want to just again remind everyone that the soybean pathology lab continues to process up to 2 samples free of charge for soybean cyst nematode test. There's a form that you can complete, and you can submit 2 soil samples to the lab, and we will run those for soybean cyst nematode and report the numbers of eggs per 100 cc of soil to the growers that submit that sample. And we're doing this with support of Ohio Soybean Council. So make sure to reach out if you have any questions during this season. If you need any help with diagnosis, we're here to help. And happy scouting.